episode of Pretty Moody, the podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Queen Leslie, and we're going to unpack all things menopause, her journey, her version, and mental health. So we want to jump right into this. Leslie, tell me, first of all, let me say thank you for being here today.
You know it's my pleasure. Like seriously.
I mean, I get so like um it's just heartwarming to have the women that come here to share their stories and be open and honest about your journey because it's not easy. Like this journey takes us through a lot of like ups and downs, and to be vulnerable, like I just really appreciate every one of y'all that come and sit next to me to talk about menopause. So it's my pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how we know each other.
Okay. So, as Sherelle said, my name is Leslie. I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. I met Sherelle in 2020, I will say. Be like December of 2020 or January 2021. My mind.
Around there.
Yep, somewhere around there.
Menopause.
Yep. Meanwhile, I will tell you, the kids said, "Oh, mom, you blame that on everything."
Yeah,
I'm like,
hey.
but in short, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my journey. I'm an educator, and right now a school psychologist. So this helps me a lot in my journey. But what's crazy is, I will honestly say that you helped me a lot in my journey.
Oh, no.
I'm going to say that because I stayed silent for a long time, like not knowing what was wrong, what was going on, any of that. And I remember I met Sherelle through a friend that moved down here a little bit before I did. And I was like, oh, I need a hairdresser. I need somebody to go to, because I was going to go back and forth to my old hairdresser. And I was like, no, it's no problem with taking that ride back and forth, no problem. And it became a problem because I was still going back and forth to Philly for work. So I was like, oh no, this is not gonna work. I'm extremely tired, I'm cranky, I'm this. And one of my friends introduced me to Cheryl. She said, I know right who you can go to. She owns her shop, but you gotta go to her because her stuff is on point. And she had did the big chop with Cheryl. And I kept telling Cheryl, like, no, you do remember this person, blah, blah, blah. So it was a while ago that she had went.
Yeah.
And so that's where our journey began.
Yes.
But prior to that,
And thank you, Frank.
I'm gonna have to shout her out. I'm gonna just shout her out, Mercedes Carter. But I, before that, in April of 2020, I lost my grandpa.
Sorry to hear that.
In September 2020, I lost my dad. So going through menopause and talking to the doctor, I kept saying something's wrong. I think somewhere in October, I went to my GYN. And I kept saying something's wrong with me. Like I'm crying. I can't get myself together. I know, I'm in a process of moving. I know that I really miss my grandpa. I know that I really miss my dad. I understand, and let's be clear, you think you understand the grieving process.
Yes.
Again, I'm a school psychologist, so I can understand a lot from children's perspective. But I think when you are in those roles, you're like, oh, I got it. I have my own children. I have a husband. So I'm like, I got this. I know how to control this. I'm reasoning with this. Grandpa was older. COVID did not take Grandpa away, but his older age, his kidneys, I'm okay with all of this, right? Sure. Because we're supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
Okay. I'm reasoning now. I'm like, oh yeah, and grandma and grandpa raised me, and I didn't, my dad, I didn't have him to raise me, but we've spent time together, and grandpa passed, and the Lord made it this way so that I could spend extra time with dad. And now dad's not doing that well, but dad was a cancer survivor. So I'm like, and it was a long time. It was maybe 11 or 12 years. So I'm like, I'm reasoning with all of this, and
right, trying to just put it all where it's
Yeah,
supposed to go so that you
yeah.
can function.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm telling the doctor, like, I get it. So maybe, and she's like, yeah, I think you're just going through a lot. I think that, you know, the grievance process, I think that you're trying to handle your own household. I think because you're in the process of moving, you're moving to a whole nother state.
Just all of those things.
Just all of those
compacted
things.
together.
Yeah. So she's like, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think anything else. And she was like, wouldn't think menopause because I mean you're young. Now, granted, I do know that my mother started going through the menopause process at 35. I remember my mom being like, "Oh my God, I gotta sleep with a fan on." And it was hot in here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and not even really being knowledgeable about all the hot flashes and things like that. And then I went back in depth, and grandma had a full hysterectomy. I'm gonna say probably around 40. Because I do know that she had, I want to say fibroids. I just remember her saying tumors. I remember her saying she had one as big as the size of a cantaloupe passed out in the room.
Oh, wow.
They had to remove everything. So I'm just like, okay. So once we revisited that, the doctor and I, she's like, you know what? I'll run some tests. Oh, and not to mention, I have the Mirena too. Okay. So when someone asks you, when's your last cycle?
You don't even know because you have the
Mirena.
Yeah.
So she's still like.
So let me ask you a question though. I want to back up a little bit to the conversation with your doctor. Did she bring up menopause to you, or did you bring menopause up to her?
I brought it up to her.
Okay.
But it still was like, I mean, we can check, but you're young. Okay. So
did they check at that time?
Probably not.
Okay.
It wasn't until the next time that I was like, I'm losing my mind. Something's wrong.
Okay, so let's fast forward to that part. So, you know, you left the doctor's office, and did you leave feeling fulfilled? Did you leave feeling like you got the answers that you were looking to get from the doctor about what you were experiencing?
No, I felt like I was like something's wrong with me, and or it's just me. It's me, and I have to fix it. I have to figure out how to fix this because if it's not menopause and it's not, and I'll also say that I can't remember who diagnosed me with fibromyalgia, but I remember also, my doctor saying that's for crazy people. Wow. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's with all the aches and pains, and I'm like, all right, this is my mental health thing. Right. It's something wrong with me. Right. It's none of those other things. Right. You better get yourself together.
And we automatically go into like that whole like, you know, we're fixers like by nature, with nurturers and fixers, we're caregivers, and we automatically go into this space on, you know, what do I need to do to fix this? How can I fix this? Yes. And it becomes our mission. Yes. To fix whatever we feel is broken. Yes. So what did you do at that point to like try to fix what you felt was broken at that time?
So I was like, ooh, I better find a counselor. And then during that time, and it's still now, counselors are scarce. And I had my next hair appointment. And I talked to you. And I was like, something's wrong because I just don't understand. And I fell apart. And I will lie to you now, guys. She was like, okay, wait a minute. We're not going to do your hair right now. Hold on. We're going to come into this office. Yeah. And she took me into her office.
I remember that day. It was, I mean, as a hairstylist, we deal with a lot because we take on people.
Yes. Yes.
People.
Different personalities.
Every single day, all day long. And I've seen a lot. I've been doing hair 30 years now. And, you know, in those 3 decades, I've seen and dealt with a whole lot, right? This particular day was different because I felt that something was controlling you and you didn't have control over it. And it was by that moment, it was like, it was a bad space. It was a really bad space. And I felt it. It was like I took it. Like no, we gotta fix. It was such a heavy.
It was and I couldn't even remember, I couldn't even tell you why. And I started still listing things. And like, maybe this is why. And maybe this is why. And maybe, and you're like, just breathe. Just sit here and breathe. And I'm going to sit here with you. It wasn't a, what's wrong? And I can fix it. You were like, just take a minute and just sort out what you need to sort out. And I still was sitting there, like, no, but she has clients and we have to get on this.
I think we was in there like, we was in there almost an hour.
Yeah, but you didn't mind.
I didn't mind at all.
You didn't mind. You were like,
you were the priority. Like at that moment, it was
Yep.
just like, hey, listen, everybody else gotta wait a second because this right
Yep.
here, we gotta attend to this.
And it was at one point you left, and I was like, I feel so bad. Like I ruined all this, but you came back with water. You wasn't even thinking about like all of this that I messed up everything. That wasn't even on your mind.
Look, and I don't even remember everything because it just felt like we were just in such a, like I said, it was just this dark space.
And you know why I remember? Because that was the first time that you were like, not you per se, but somebody was like a female, no attachment to each other, but like, I feel you. I understand. And I was like, oh, I have completely fallen apart in front of my hairdresser, right? And I'm like, that was
stylist. I'm sorry, she keeps saying hairdresser. They're
correct
back in
me.
like the 60s, the
Yes.
70s. We don't have hairdressers no more, boo.
Wait a minute, but not to mention, can I put out there that my son works for her? And let me tell you what he tells me.
Him. I love him.
Mom, we are assistants and you are guests. I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, Miss Sherelle, don't play that, Mom. So even he's correcting me.
Because it's all in how you're presenting yourself.
You're right. It's the presentation. And he done told me. He
said,
told
let
me.
me set the record.
He's like, let me.
So I am a
Hairstylist. And I am a guest. Yes.
But I mean, it was, I mean, because I did.
Mm-hmm.
I felt you. Like, I really did. It was just kind of like, I remember feeling like not just being in a space where you just don't know what the hell is going on with you, where you just absolutely have like no control over the feeling, and I've never seen it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I felt it. Of course, I felt it and still feel it. Because we don't know from day to day how we're, from second to second, minute to minute, how we're going to feel.
How we're going to feel.
But it was so, it was just right in my face. I seen it.
And did you feel that way? So how did you know? Did you feel that way because I didn't bounce my head, be so like, hey, because you know how I come in. And
no, because the way that I remember the story was, you were in the waiting area, in the guest waiting room, right? And I came because we have been talking about cutting your hair. We're still talking about cutting your hair.
Yes.
It's beautiful long hair. She wants to cut it all short, right? So we were talking about cutting your hair.
Yes.
So, and we talked about it over text, and then I came in, and I'm like, yo, no, you don't, and because I said, hey, you ready? Like, hey, girl, you ready? We about to do this. And you was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't wanna. But it was like, I mean, we're laughing now.
Yes, but I'm
gonna tell you, like, at the moment, it was like, to me, it was a life or death situation. Like,
because that's how I fell apart.
And I just kind of was like, and I know that's kind of extreme when you say it like that.
Yeah.
But I took it that seriously. Because it wasn't, once I realized she's not crying over her hair being cut. Like, I got that, like,
that part.
Like, right away.
That part.
Like, right away. And that's when I just ejected you out of there. Like, come on. Like, let's go. Come with me.
She did.
Like, come on, let's go. Come.
But can I say that is, to me, more than a hairstylist?
Thank you for that.
That's somebody that knew me and my spirit.
Thank you for that.
And that says a lot to me about how I felt safe, but not only how I felt safe, but how you knew. Like, you see how fast you were like, oh, I realized quickly, like, this not
That
my
wasn't
hair.
It wasn't it.
Yep.
And it was and I'm not going to repeat, the things that you were saying, because I don't know if you want people to know the things that you were saying, or if you even remember.
That's what I said. Why not remember?
But it was just alarming to
Mhm.
me. And I knew that this is not, this ain't the haircut, boo.
Mhm.
Like, come on, we have an issue, we have a problem here, and we need to address it. We have to, I didn't know if it was a fixing to it at that moment,
Mhm.
but I knew that it had to be addressed.
Mhm.
It was like, and you needed a space.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So what I didn't want to happen was someone to walk in, not that you really cared about that, but it was just protecting your privacy at that moment.
Yes. Yes.
So it was just important for me to get you out of that space and get you into a more private space where you can kind of process what was happening at that time.
Absolutely.
And I think that's when we talked about like therapy and
Mhm. Yes. And I failed to mention, so way prior to that, I had gotten blood work at the doctor.
yes, because we talked about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so although we were not in search of it being something, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that a lot of people get information back on their portals nowadays.
Mhm.
Like there is no really, the doctor calls you unless I don't even know what they feel like is a major catastrophe, because I feel like menopause to me was my major catastrophe.
Yeah, but I think that we had talked about before, and you were like, is there something that I can do to find out? And I was like, yeah, you can tell your doctor to test you. And I think that's how we got to that,
Mm-hmm.
space. And that was just kind of like bizarre too, because you had already been to the doctor and you were already saying how you were feeling. And what is it to say, okay, let's just run this test just to, I don't think you're there, but let's rule it out. I mean, you want to give us everything else for
Yep.
everything else,
Right.
for everything else, right?
Right.
So let's really try to like unpack what's happening here.
Yes.
So if it's something as simple as a blood test that you can run that, can test my hormone levels, then honey, boo, let's do it.
And
because that helped you get to the
understand,
place.
like, oh, this is why. Which was funny because she even understood, like, left me a message in the portal, like, hey, oh my goodness, now we know why you've been feeling this way.
It makes sense.
And it was like, oh, and it still was through a portal. And then I was like, what do I do now? And I remember sitting there and crying, but not crying out of sadness, but being like, great, I'm not insane.
Yes. Yes.
I even went and told my husband, like, look, I took the laptop. I was
Babe,
like,
I'm really not crazy.
And he said to me, like, all right, but I knew you weren't crazy. Like, but in my mind,
we feel
trying to fix. And like you said, not knowing how you're going to feel from minute to minute and trying to control those emotions. I'm sensitive anyway. So anybody that's close to me could tell you know me. I get upset, I'll cry, I get angry, I'll cry. Like I'm happy, a baby is born, I'm crying.
Yeah,
like that's just me.
Yes.
So that had turned to like triple time. And I was like, oh my gosh, something. But just to find out, like, now I know what I'm working with. And I remember telling you, like, hey, now I know. And then it was like, well, are you peri or are you in the middle? And I'm like, I don't know.
Do you know now? Do you know
I
today?
still don't know today.
So have you gone 12 months without your menstrual cycle yet?
I have not.
Do you still have the Marina?
I do.
So
I'm scared to take that out.
But do you think that? But you're not.
Because I
know, because
I know too many people that have that. Yep. No, and I have a cousin. She got pregnant at 50, honey, and that daughter is hell on wheels, and it's because she was depressed. Like, how could this happen?
So yes, and I mean, and that's a whole nother topic
And I
too,
don't want to
because
be
you
like
have,
this.
yes, exactly, because you have now women that are in peri and women that are in full blown menno, and they are like dealing with teenagers and younger kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because
Mm-hmm. Because it
you can
snuck,
still get
snuck
knocked
right
out.
in. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, but if you still have your Mirena, and then you probably wouldn't know when
Mm-mm.
when you have gone.
Mm-mm.
So
So now
So
that
your
is due,
blood- but
without being vulgar, this is due to come out in November 2023.
okay, but your test that you took,
Mm-hmm.
did she say you were like in menopause, or did she just say, hey, your levels are just...
Mm-mm. She said, hey, we now know why you feel this way. You are in menopause.
Oh, okay. So then that is your answer as to where you are. So if she's saying you are in menopause,
Mm-hmm.
then you're probably in menopause according to your hormone test that you had done.
And from time to time, I go back and look at that message on the app because I'm like,
is that for real?
Yeah, like I'm not really sure. Like,
if you don't mind me asking, and you can say I plead the fifth. How old are you?
I am 44.
Okay.
I'm 44.
Okay. So you were saying though that your mom, you noticed in her, like when she was like 35 or so,
Mm-hmm.
because 44 being in full blown menno is early.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have taken on that from your mom.
Yeah.
You know, which they do say we can, you know, mimic.
Mm-hmm.
Highly a possibility that we'll mimic like the woman and that's closest to us in our lives.
Okay.
So that would make sense.
Yeah.
If you're...
Yes.
Wow. So that's
Whew.
So how are you like dealing with things now? How did the therapy help you when you started the therapy? And where are you now? Like, how are you feeling now?
So when I started the therapy, I felt like there were so many things to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated the therapist because she was like, listen, we want to unpack them one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say therapy was doing me great.
Mm-hmm.
I will say we had a little disconnect because you switch the switcher of billing.
Yeah.
But that's something that is much needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's much needed.
I agree.
Because to deal with menno alone,
Mm-hmm.
however, you still have children.
Mm-hmm.
You still have those of us who are married. You still have a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who continue to work. You have job, and again, I'm in education, so I deal with children, and we have staff, and sometimes all of those things do not line up together. Oh, and don't forget the lack of sleep. Whether it's from the night sweats, or whether it's from your husband snoring when you finally do get to sleep, or dogs barking that you've inherited because you thought this was what you wanted. Because at the time you did want it.
Comfort.
You wanted it. Yeah.
You wanted a comfort animal.
I did.
I remember that.
And I was like, I didn't even want the big one. I wanted the little one. And I'm going to get it. And I'm going to go and get it. And my husband was like, she came home with this other dog I knew nothing about. And I'm like, you did, because I told you I was getting it. And I guess he probably was like, well, I'm not going to say nothing. Let her just do what she wants. So
Thank
with
you
all
for the
of
great
that,
husbands.
yes. Oh my gosh. And don't even talk about that. Because some days I'm just like, dang, I gotta go big and apologize.
Yes.
Because I was flying off the handle. Like, I just have to, and I try to be mindful of that also.
Mm-hmm.
Because he will be 45 this year. And I looked at one of your posts, and we discussed the post, and I'm like, God, he's probably going through it too. So where I'm fussing and why he don't do this and he's doing that, and I'm like, I'm looking at all the same symptoms, like, that poor man. And here I am, like, it's about me. I gotta deal with all of this, you know. And but I just really, I was happy to know that it was that. However, in meeting you and talking to you about this whole journey, I was just like, somebody understands. A black woman is doing the research.
Yes.
She's not just like, oh, you have this, so hormone replacements. And I remember,
I'm not a doctor.
yeah, but you've done the
but
research.
I knew, and this is what I say all the time, like, Pretty Moody is here because I got placed. God placed me on this journey, and although I didn't know why in the beginning, and I questioned it and all of that, I know why now.
Mm-hmm.
So Pretty Moody is here, you know, for you, for me, and for anybody else that, you know, needs some type of support, anything in
Yes.
this realm of menopause that I can provide. I just want to be here to be just a beacon of light, like, period, like, whenever.
And you
So,
are.
I'm
You are
trying
for
my best.
so many
Thank you.
of us. Just
Thank you.
sharing and spreading. I have friends that I'm like, go to this page, go to that. Because the same thing. Some of my closest friends, I'm like, you didn't tell me. Like, they just didn't, nobody
Right.
talked about
Nobody
it.
talked about it. And I'm just like, we're talking about this.
Yes.
Like, we're going to change
We
this
need
narrative.
to.
We're going to be the ones to say, okay, you know, nope, stops here. We have to talk.
It's
Period.
because it's been a secret.
Yep.
It's been a secret.
It's been a debilitating secret.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's crippling.
Yes. And it's almost like, why wouldn't you share that? But I think of like grandma, and I think of what that may have been for her.
Yes.
There was no one to help her or to tell her.
At all.
My mom, the same thing. Like, she probably just, because no one talked about it.
And everybody just dealt with things.
Mhm.
It was like, just deal with
Mhm.
it. You have to just deal with it. You can't talk about it.
And even now, what's funny is I have picked and choose who I tell or who I talk about it with,
Mhm.
or it's some
Why?
people that so what I have realized in my lifetime, when I start to feel like people are negative anyway, I will just I will shut them out,
Mhm.
regardless of relationship, of and I say like name relationship,
Mhm.
like oh this is my
Mhm.
this and
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
and so some of those people I've chose not to share with because I just feel like if it's negative energy,
I got you.
I just don't even
That
want to
totally makes
engage.
sense.
You don't need to be in my personal space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel embarrassed to talk about menopause now? Like
Not at all. And I will tell people in a minute. Listen, even at work, I told my boss, listen, they are pushing my buttons and I'm really trying, and I get it. We are the same age. In fact, she teases me because she's like, I'm still 43. She won't be 44 until April.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girlfriend, let me tell you something. When you get there, and she's like, maybe this is why. So she's like, maybe this is why my midsection won't.
Yeah.
And maybe then she's like, and I was like, okay, so wait until you start sweating though. What's funny is I'm always cold. I'm a person that's always cold. It's funny, one of my friends at work, she makes sweatshirts and things, and she's like, I got something for you. Like when she first started, sweatshirts is always cold. And then Keon was like, tell her except for at night when the sheets are all wet and everything. And but I talk to people only when, but I find myself, it's when I forget things or when I feel the need to explain why it may be.
Okay.
You know, and
is that more like at work or like just in general?
That's in general.
Okay.
It's in general, because even with the kids, I mean, even before we started talking, and I don't know if you heard me tell Mike about baby girl. Now, I will say, it probably was part minnow and tequila together. Because baby girl, we were texting back and forth. She asked me was it okay if she went to a competition with a friend and all that. Lo and behold, I didn't even know she wasn't home that night because I told her yes. But I vaguely remember her saying something about 6 o'clock and this, that, and other. But it was 6 o'clock. The mom was going to pick her up, but I wasn't home. But I then realized she spent the night over her girlfriend's house. And I know that sounds really, really bad. And anybody who knows me, I am usually like on it. But again, this is going through this whole thing and just not remembering
and
some
being
things.
on point the way that we used to be on point. And that is like a really like scary thing because again, it's that control. Like we're used to having, control over everything pretty much in our lives. And when you can't even remember or you're like, oh my God, did I do this? Or it can be like
where did I put this?
Oh my gosh, like the smallest thing. Like I can have bacon on the grill and be like, oh my God, I forgot I had the bacon on the grill, but I was just there, like it's just, it's crazy, and it really like throws you off your game because you feel like, dang, I'm not on point, like I used to be. So I get that. How is it like at work? Like how is this at work, dealing with menopause in the workplace?
So I can tell you from two perspectives. I can tell you with dealing with different personalities, but I can also tell you as far as like my work. I have to be super organized because if I'm not, I will forget something. And I do a lot of writing things down. I definitely have to use my calendar at work, digital calendar, and like on my desk calendar, because I always have a lot of meetings, deadlines and things like that, and I have to deal with the staff for those deadlines because they need me to give certain input. But as far as those skills, that's how I keep up.
Okay.
As far as just dealing with staff and personality, I've even had to change that up because I gave up 3 things for Lent. And I say that because we're talking about staff and how to deal with people. And I gave up meat, and I gave up candy, and the last thing was I gave up cursing.
Oh, that's a that's a big one for me. Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
My
mom. Needless to say, I fell short. I won't say fail.
Yeah.
I fell short.
No, we don't fail.
We don't fail.
No.
I fell short with the cursing because I don't understand why. Like I'm an understanding person, and I respect everyone, and I value opinions, and we're a team, and we're supposed to be doing what's in the best interest for children. But I feel like when it's a lot of riffraff going on, for whatever reason, it can be cultural, it can be race issues, it can be diversity, it could be, how does she have that job, or I just want to try her. And I think when I continuously am very nice, and I try to think like, oh, well, I go through things. Maybe they're going through things. And
giving people the benefit of the
doubt. But honey, I think where 100% of the time I would give people the benefit of the doubt, it has lowered.
Yes.
Really lowered.
Yeah.
And you and I have had that conversation.
Yes, we have. And that's okay because I feel like, we have to set boundaries, especially now, like, and I'm not saying we don't still give grace and everything like that because, I definitely give people grace too.
You give a lot of grace.
A lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah,
but
you do.
But it's just different now.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's different.
You want to know what I tell people?
What you tell them?
If you don't want me here and you don't like my skills, I can go somewhere else.
Hey. She said, period. Now take that.
Because the one thing I can tell you, I'm very confident in the work that I do. And I know why I'm there to do the work that I do. But it ain't even worth my time if we gonna keep doing all of this.
And then all stressed out and adding more stress.
Because listen, again, this thing, I don't want to come in and fly off the handle.
I mean, but that even just that part of getting there, like sometimes that's a whole job, like getting up and getting yourself ready, like to go and be productive. Like you gotta show up and like really show up. it's not like we can just be like, oh, I don't feel like it today.
Oh,
I
I
don't feel
can't.
like this shit today, so I'm not doing it. Like, we
I can't.
still have to show up. Like, we have people counting on us. And number one, we're counting on us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I get that part. It's a lot.
Yeah.
What about, like, have you had any bouts with, like, depression, anxiety?
I think I've had both. I tie it into both. I will say that was another thing that my doctor and I talked about. She's like, you know, a lot of times after the kids, you were depressed and you were going through it. And I'm like, she's right. Like again, she's right.
postpartum.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I will also say too, like I deal with seasonal depression.
Mm-hmm.
I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a mixture of those things. And again, I really still believe like I'm grieving. So it's all of those things mixed together. And the anxiety comes in with, I gotta make sure I'm doing this right. They're counting on me to have this work done. My kids are counting on me to be strong. I know that, my husband needs me too. And although he's strong and he does things too, but I'm like, he definitely needs me to assist. Like I can't just be like, well, I'm gonna shut my door. And even some days I feel like just laying there and pulling the covers over my head. But then the anxiety kicks in, because if I do that, then those other 13 things that were supposed to get done anyway,
that's the part right there.
They don't get done. So now it's 13 more things onto tomorrow's list. And then don't try to be like, I'm not gonna do nothing tomorrow either. It's like a it's almost like a wheel.
That
hamster wheel.
Yep, that rat race.
So
yes,
that's where the anxiety kicks in. So I will tell you that you have taught me how to just sit in peace, just not too long, not all day, because you don't need all day, but make those lists, sit and take time. Even my god sister has taught me, she like says you can't do it all.
Right, you can't.
You gotta take time for yourself, like mentally, like seriously, like even if that means just pulling into a parking lot and sitting there and sorting things through.
Yeah, and just doing absolutely
nothing. Just listen to the air.
Yes.
Or turn the music down really, really low. Or sometimes I'll listen to some gospel. Sometimes I'll just talk to God. Sometimes I will just talk to myself, like, let me, this is what I'm going through.
I'm laughing, I'm sorry, not at what you're saying. I'm laughing because my husband told me the other day, he says, you starting to like talk to yourself in the mornings now, like when you get up. And I was like, well, what's the problem? He's like, well, I don't know if you're talking to me or not, and I don't want to like ignore you. And I was like, listen, bro, like I'll let you know when I need to rope you into the conversation.
But right now,
because I mean, it's so crazy because I used to hear my grandmother, my mom's mom, like she would talk in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hear her like while she was in the bathroom talking. I'm like, either she's talking, she's losing her damn mind, or she talking to God.
Right.
But she sound like she talking about like what her grocery list is and what she got to do.
Yes.
But I'm like, now today I'm like, well, shit, maybe she was going through menopause and she just needed to talk shit out.
Yes.
And I do find myself like doing it, especially when I'm getting myself ready for the day.
Mm-hmm.
It can be like, oh my God, like what shirt am I going to put on so I'm not in there sweating, or what, like just anything. And I'll just talk it out. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if you're talking to me or not. You gonna know.
But doesn't it make you feel better though when you do that?
Yeah, because I'm getting it out.
Yes.
Like, I'm talking it out.
Because I feel like when you
hear it,
when you're in your mind, it's too much. Like it's too much jumbled up in there, and you wind up forgetting anyway. You beat them wet in the closet. Well, what shirt did I? Because at least you're like, talking it through, and like, as you're doing
here for.
Yes.
Like I do that all day long.
Yes.
All day long. So yeah, the talk. I'm going to talk to myself, and I suggest y'all talk to yourself too. Yes, you can have some great conversations with self.
You'll learn some things.
For real.
Yes. I feel like it is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
it's better to be prepared for the journey.
For sure.
So that was another thing that I could appreciate about this, because you have daughters.
Yes.
So even, and now I will say, I think Sherelle's girls, and I do know my kids, they laugh like, oh gosh, here she goes. And I remember Cam being like, when you're Cam, we were on the phone one day and she was like, here they go. And then my Cam was like, you know they're gonna say the menopause.
That's it.
And I was like, and you better not say
and
nothing.
that's it. And that's what it is. She just said it last night. Right, everything called it a
That's all right, because I told them they gonna have a turn.
Yeah, that's it.
You have
But and it's yes, I talk to them now. You know, we have 3 daughters, and 2 of them are actually experiencing some things with their bodies. My Cam, I don't even know if I told you she had to have surgery.
No.
Yeah, like a few weeks ago. It was crazy. And I was bugging the hell out because, you know, it was so many things. Like, I didn't want to see any of my babies go through the things that I went through. You know, we don't want our kids enduring the things the painful things that we endure.
Yes.
Right. So when I saw this happening, and I was talking to my oldest daughter, and she had some things going on too, I was like, oh my God, like what? Like, is this because of me?
Yes.
You know, we start blaming ourselves.
Yes.
So I'm not going to unpack that too much because they're actually going to do a podcast with me. They both agreed to do a podcast with me. But my point is, we have to educate, you know, the younger generations, and not just like younger, like in their 30s. And, you know, we need to reach down to the 20s and even, you know, below.
Yes.
Because they need to know from that time where their bodies are transitioning from puberty, right?
That part.
It starts there.
It does.
So if we are depositing, you know, into them the education and just the resources and things that they need, survival skills to deal with this, the transitions that we go through.
Yes.
Okay, like you're starting here, yes, you want to get your period, but then you need to know all of this stuff too. So it's so important. Education for our young ones and education for just us all, you know, together.
Yes.
Because one of my favorite sayings now is communication is education.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And that is so true.
We have to talk about this in order to get educated.
Yes.
Because when I entered into this crazy space in 2020, I didn't know shit about menopause.
You said that.
Nothing.
You said that.
Nothing. Like, my mom, she didn't really talk about it. The most I heard her say was she was having a flash. I talked about that several times. Grandmothers, damn sure didn't talk about it.
No.
So I didn't know anything. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yes.
Like, this is such a huge transition in our life. And we don't know anything about it.
No.
That was bizarre to me.
Yes. Yes.
Bizarre.
And now that I think about it, I mean, and I think about it all the time. That's why I say I'm thankful for you, because you never know what gems you're going to end up getting.
Yes,
Just
I'm
coming
thankful
in and
for you.
sitting
I'm
and
thankful
talking.
for you.
I feel the same way. Because just imagine, I would have still been going on with not saying anything and feeling like, even still feeling like, yes, I know this now, but now I have to fix it. It's not something that you fix. It's not. It's not anything that you fix.
It is not.
It is not anything that you fix.
That's right.
And just by conversation, you know, and I do understand it has to be on both parts. I am a person, and I know even before this, it's just like, you know, I was like, listen, everything's on. Like, there's nothing off limits for you to ask me or for us to talk about, because somebody has to talk about it.
Right.
Because you helped me talk about it and help me not be embarrassed or want to read more about it, or, hey, this is something natural. And yes, I'm a little bit younger, but there are people even younger that go through it. There are people that I was close with that I seen things happening to, and as I read up on your studies and I read, it's like, oh, okay, we were all going through the same thing.
That's right. And you find that's what you hear when you start talking about it. That women find that there's a commonality. Like I can relate. Like, oh my God, it's not just me.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
this is crazy. And I try not to be like overpowering or obnoxious with pushing it, on women. But I will say that I'm very in tune now with, I can see it. I can kind of I get like a feeling, and it's kind of like, okay, she's experiencing this, because a lot of women tell me what they're going through, just not looking for anything back from me, just sitting in a chair, or I'm putting their color in, and they're just, it's the regular conversation.
Yes.
But it's so much that comes out of that regular conversation. We talk about, our feelings and emotions, and what happened in our day, what happened yesterday, what your husband did to piss you off, which kids did, what what's making you happy. We talk about everything. So now I'm very sensitive when women are speaking about the things that they're feeling and going through, because most of us are on, that I'm connected to and working on, are on this same age.
Yes.
Like playing field.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, so we're all kind of like in the same place.
Yes.
So now I can just offer some help and some assistance when I recognize that a woman may be in this space without knowing.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
But I will say this: you offer. You don't even. I don't know if you realize this, but you offer assistance with so many things. I mean, I've just the type of person you are, and even talking about this, like other things have unfolded, and it's just like, oh, you're like, oh, let me know in this area if I can help you. If I can help you in this area, what do you want to do here? So it's more than just, oh, this is my hairstyle. That kind of relationship.
Thank you.
I mean, down to my own children.
Yeah, I love them.
You know, I mean, they said,
they're my babies.
Sherelle loves her babies. I'm like, oh. But even my 13-year-old is my first girl. Like, I have a 24-year-old. He'll be 24 Friday. And I have Cam. He's 17. But even through, so we've moved down here. I told Sherelle, we found out Cam had epilepsy. So that was another thing in January of 2021. She's been so supportive of that. So that, my journey, me with the daughter, 13, she's definitely not like the boys. No, we love our girls, but definitely not like the boys. But again, like I told Sherelle, my sister told me this, that, and other, and she was like, yeah, she's a girl. So it's going to be different. Like, it's going to be, and again, you have 3, so.
Yeah, and I'm crazy.
I'm like,
I'm girls.
I'm like, oh my gosh, and much different than your son, right?
Completely different.
You are a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, thank you. So are you. We give it to each other. And that's what I love. Yeah. It's like the law of reciprocity, right?
Yes.
So we give it to each other, and that's the beauty in these relationships, and this platform.
Yes.
Is we're here for each other.
Yes.
And as long as we keep multiplying that, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yes.
I feel like good women that want to lift each other up in this whole everything that we have going on.
Yes.
I think that's what we need.
That's exactly what we need. We're entering into spring. We're going to close out soon, but in some cultures they look at menopause as the second spring, like a rebirthing, and I think of it that way. Also when I saw that, I was just instantly like drawn to it, and I was like, that's dope, because everything's negative around menopause. It's just negative. And don't get me wrong, I'm not denouncing none of that shit, because
we going through that shit.
We going for real. Like, and it's real. Like, the things the bad things that come with it is real, but that's life.
Yes.
You can't throw our life away just because we got some bad things going on, and because great things also happen, and good and bad things happen simultaneously at the same time. I just commented back to someone earlier and said that I feel like I'm in that space where you simultaneously have like a bunch of chaos and craziness, but you have a bunch of greatness happening at the same time also. So I love the fact that they are looking at it like this rebirthing and this, second spring, and we're embarking into spring now. What would you say that your biggest accomplishment have been with learning about, you being in menopause? What do you feel that you've like conquered?
I feel like I've conquered the whole thing of being like, this is me. I'm changing.
I love that.
It's okay to change.
Yes.
Every day is not going to look the same, but that is okay.
It's okay.
Everything doesn't have to run off of, it has to be like this and it has to be like that. Because when it doesn't happen like that, I had to get used to that.
That's right.
Then it's like, oh no, everything's going to fall apart. It's a failure. But it's not a failure.
Nope.
It's just change.
Yes.
And we are supposed to change during different seasons, right?
I love it.
Different ages, different situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest accomplishment, being okay with that.
I love
being
that.
Good with that. Not just
good.
even okay.
Being good.
But being good with that.
I love that.
Actually just welcoming it. Like, because you don't grow without change.
That's right.
You can't sit in the same space and expect growth.
That's right.
So I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
I love that.
And it's almost like, but I had to get here.
That's right.
To understand.
It's a part of the journey though. And that's so important that you realize that I had to get here.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get here. And then the next place will be the same.
Yes.
I had to get here.
Yes.
Because we're on a journey.
Yes.
The great thing about it is we're not going to stay here.
Mm-mm.
Because we're on a journey, right? We're gonna keep moving along.
Yes.
So that's great. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We're gonna close out with thanking you for being here today. I really appreciate you. This was amazing. Thank you for sharing, your experience, and what advice would you leave other women with that's on their menopause journey?
I would say a few things. I would say share. Educate each other, hold those women very tight around you, and be giving and acceptant of them, building each other up. And those are the things that I would, and love yourself. Love yourself and where this journey is taking you, because in order to do all those other things that I just said, you have to love where you are first.
Amen to that.
And it's okay to get help. You can get help from a therapist. You can have friends that are your therapist when your therapist isn't available. But I would say all of those things.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. This has been great.
This has been great. I love you more. Impossible. Thank you.
Oh, this was good.
This was good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Babe, no sneezing during